Self. Okay, hi.
Hi, welcome to the Coaching Mixer, the podcast where we drink things and talk coaching and have like deep philosophical debates.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Sometimes
Sometimes we just talk nonsense.
both are fun. I think both are fun.
Both
How
are
are
very
you?
fun. I am good. I'm looking outside. So yesterday it was like 85 and sunny, and so I
hmm
soaked up all the vitamin D and was like feeling amazing. And it is now snowing
Yeah,
outside. So
we
that's
are in the same
interesting.
weather system, my friend, from far away.
I'm so sorry. It was really nice to get a couple of days of
hmm
warmth, though.
Yeah, my we went on a hike this weekend. We were like maybe a little bit ambitious because it was like it's a lovely day. Let's go for a hike in this place where I grew up, and I know that there's going to be ice on the trail, but they're very winding, like hilly
Ooh.
trails. And so I was like, just grateful I didn't fall and break anything.
I'm also
Like, that's a
grateful for that.
win.
Yes. Wait, so did you have like crampons or anything?
No, I was wearing
Wow.
running shoes. I should have known better. And, the only person in my family who had boots was my 8-year-old. And he also like doesn't he's lower to the ground. He doesn't care. He's
Right.
not a 40 something woman. He's
Right.
not
He's
worried
like
about
made
his
of
bones. So he was
he's made
like
of rubber like
skating
children.
down the hill kind of backwards in his
Oh
boots,
my
like
God.
scooting in the middle, like just I was the opposite. I was like tenderly walking, but
In the vein of talking about feeling our age, I a couple of weeks ago I hurt my back shoveling snow and I
mhm.
like got over it, and then I kid you not, I sneezed
Yeah.
wrong. And my back was like, nope, you're gonna be out for like 4 days. So
Yeah.
that's a fun thing about turning 40.
Yeah, it's real. And the thing I say to, some of my clients who've experienced chronic pain, and I've gone through chronic pain, is like you are more body aware than other people. And I feel like that starts to happen at this age. Like you take better care because yeah,
If
you
you
might
know
sneeze wrong.
consequences.
Might
Yeah.
sneeze wrong and have to lay on the floor.
I was like, I am either standing at my desk or laying on the couch. I still am because it still hurts a little
Oh,
bit.
I'm sorry. Well, if you need to move
Thank you.
around or
Yeah,
whatever,
I will be like
yeah,
naturally fidgeting just because when I'm standing, that's what I
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Yeah. So, Erin, what are you drinking today?
Oh, okay. I don't, it doesn't have a name yet.
Mm.
Um, you suggested ginger,
Yes. So our
ginger
theme is like
inspired.
some ginger
Yeah.
inspired
We're
beverage.
we're warding off any spring colds with our ginger,
There we go.
promoting good digestion with our gingery drinks. So this is Steve made it again. Thank you, Steve. He muddled some ginger. It's 2 ounces of bourbon, 1 ounce of lime juice, and half an ounce of Campari, and then some ginger bitters.
Nice.
Yeah. And it is delightful. But I was
That
saying
sounds
before we
great.
started, I was like, I had to like stuff my face a little bit before. I was like, I better not have this on no food, or else this will be a very different episode.
Yeah, it does sound pretty strong
Yeah.
and delicious.
Yours also looks really
Um,
pretty. Mine's a little red. Yours is
yeah.
beautiful.
So I was at Jordan and I went to a chocolate expo festival over the weekend, and they
Oh,
had chocolate, but they also had like some beverages. So I got to try a honey and ginger infused vodka, which was quite
mm,
delicious. So I decided to mix it with like mostly seltzer water and just a little splash of pineapple juice. And it's
amazing.
very tasty.
Looks good. Cheers. Oh yeah, there's soda water in
Oh,
this.
sorry.
Not this is not
Yeah.
this is not just pure alcohol, everyone.
Yeah.
This is
Mine is
a
like
lot of
mostly
mostly soda.
soda water.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, delicious.
Ah, delicious. Okay. This is like the dangerous sort of delicious because it doesn't taste alcoholic at all.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
only one for me.
me too.
Okay, so we got another listener
Yay,
question.
amazing.
So today the question, there are a few, so if we have time, we can go into the others.
Yeah.
But the first one is um, just like talking a little bit about short-term versus long-term clients, and like specifically with long-term clients, how we as coaches navigate like offering long-term support while simultaneously like discouraging dependency or cultivating dependency, and like how to tell the difference as well between a client who is like just living and wanting ongoing support for that
Mhm.
experience and a client who is like growing dependent
Mhm.
on us.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah.
Such a
Yeah.
good topic. Do you have any initial thoughts?
I have do I don't know. I think for one thing, I think dependency can be a thing to look out for both in like any length of relationship. And I think there are some signs of that. It's not like a terrible thing if it happens. It's actually really good to like notice it happening. What are some signs? Like, can we talk about that a little bit?
I mean, I can talk about it, I think, theoretically, but I don't know that it's ever happened to me.
Oh, wow.
I have some long-term clients. I have clients I've worked with since I began coaching. Um,
Hmm.
but I think the way that maybe I've been lucky enough to avoid it, or I just like work with certain type of people where that's not,
Hmm.
they're not like, I need you to solve my problems or think through things. Is I think I mean, I know this happens with therapists. I have a therapist friend, and this is something that she always has to be aware of. But I think maybe the reason I don't really have any experience with it is I'm always kind of referring to them as the ultimate expert.
Mm, yeah.
So I actually do offer a lot of thinking partnership. I offer people a lot of ideas. Um, but I have like no attachment to what I throw out there because I'm more
Hmm.
interested in whether it resonates with them or it doesn't, if it's getting closer or it's not. I never assume that like I'm going to listen to someone tell me their thing and I'm going to be like, all right, here's exactly what's going on and exactly what we have to do. Um, I wish I could do that in some ways, but I don't think I'm arrogant enough to think I like have someone all figured out, even if I have worked with them for a long term, for the long term. And it's something really intentional is for me not to assume things about my clients who I have been with for a number of years. Like that is actually
Mm,
something I have to really be conscious of, is not just saying, oh yeah, this particular decision is just like that other one that you dealt with 2 years ago. I have to kind of
hmm.
remember like you're an evolving person. What you need is different. This situation might look similar, but it's also different. So it's kind of like catching myself when I feel like maybe I'm making this three-dimensional person like a cutout, a cardboard cutout of themselves and not, yeah, not that person. It's a long-winded
Yeah.
answer to say I don't really know what it looks like.
Yeah. I don't think that's long-winded. I think it actually highlights like for one thing, dependency is a spectrum. For another thing, I don't think we need to relate to it as like a boogeyman. Like I think we're all human beings are interdependent to some extent, and like it's not necessarily fundamentally a problem. I do the coaching that I prefer, like what you described, I do personally not, I don't think coaching should be cultivating dependency because of what you said about like relating to client as the expert. Um, I think that a lot of coaches do approach coaching from the perspective of like, I need to be an expert, I need to be like perform expertise.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be an effective way of keeping clients for a long time. Um, but I think the truly transformational work is when a client can like rely on themselves as an expert and like they don't have to be an expert in everything, but they should like be able to trust their own assessment and wisdom. And then like intentionally call in experts, but like not deferring to them as authority figures necessarily.
I think you just touched on something that's really important. And I know that this has come up in an episode we did a while ago, but I think it's kind of the way that a lot of coaches were trained. It's like, yes, you have to be an expert. You have to be very niche. You have to really focus on the one problem, the big problem that you solve. I actually think that you're right. That approach might inspire people to feel like they really need to work with someone.
Mm-hmm.
But I actually think it's a terrible long-term business solution,
Mm.
because if you put yourself in that bucket, hopefully you can help the person solve the problem that they came to you for. But then what do they need you for after?
Right.
Like then you're kind of creating some kind of like trying to drum up some kind of dependency to get a long-term client. Whereas
Which I think actually is the strategy for some coaches.
it is
Like,
the
I do think
strategy.
there are some, and like, I do want to acknowledge, like, I think it does work to some degree. I just don't
Mhm.
really want a part of it because I think it's kind of icky.
It's a huge ick factor. Like and something, maybe one of the signs of that is like if you're looking at the way someone does their marketing and it's always only about the pain point.
Mm.
It's always only about how terrible this person's life is and then how transformed they will be in X amount of months or years when you, the fantastic coach, comes in and saves the day. Like, I think a lot of times that kind of marketing is focused on, hey, this is how great I am as a coach, not let me help you be better at making decisions because you actually know what it is you want in this
Hmm.
department of your life. Then the fun part, at least in my experience, and I won't say that this works for everyone across the board in every pocket of coaching, but like in my experience, coming to sessions with clients and feeling like a collaborator with that person and an additional brain to help. They're always smarter than me. I work with people who are really smart who like they don't need me. I don't want them to ever feel like, oh, I need this person, but I can be a brain and have a perspective that maybe they don't have that can add some richness to what they're up to. And I think
Yeah.
that's better for long-term business relationships with people because then they know that as they evolve, I can be their coach for the long term. I'm always trying
Mm.
to learn additional skills. I'm always developing something. I'm always trying to respond to what they need. I'm literally right now, I work with all of these artists, and I decided it's really hard for me to relate to some of their struggles when I don't do any kind of visual art. So I've been taking like this pastels class and I'm just like having such a good time. Um, but I think it's fun because then it's like I will also stretch myself out of my comfort zone, do something that I am not skilled at and I haven't worked on at all. It's not my wheelhouse, but to just get a little bit of enough perspective on what they're dealing with and be a little bit in their world so I can have those conversations.
Yeah. I think that's so powerful because what you're really doing, I think probably the reason that you are a great coach to them is not because you know how to use pastels, it's because you are a person who stretches herself. And the process of stretching yourself is like making you a more profound thought partner for them, no matter like what they're working on.
Yeah, and I think, and it's funny because it is the opposite of a lot of the business advice that's out there. There was like a trend in coaching. I'm sure you received this, or maybe you were even taught this as well, because I definitely was. It's like, here's how you create a long-term client is every single week before their session starts, you to ask, how did that thing go? How are you doing? Did you make progress? So that at the end of their coaching package, you can go back and say, here's your transformation. Here's all of the accomplishments. Here's all of the work we did together. It's obvious you should continue working with me.
Yeah. And then like, here's what you could do if we continued to work
Right.
together.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it's not an ineffective style of working, but I think it puts the coach in the position of, what's that old movie? Like the always be selling.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
always be closing.
Yeah.
It puts you in this position where you're always in a sales conversation with your client in a way that does not, I don't, at least for me, maybe other people can juggle these things, but I can't focus on being 100% present with them if on the back of my mind I'm like, ooh, how do I get this person to renew? Ooh, I'm going to make a note of that so they remember that we had this amazing breakthrough today, and like, let's wrap it up.
Yeah.
What are your takeaways? What are you going to do? Like all of this extra kind of salesy stuff. It's not a bad thing, but I think it distracts from the deeper work that you can potentially do with someone, and kind of the self-trust that the work that you're doing with someone will matter enough that if it's right for that person to continue working with you, they will just do it.
Yeah. I think it is kind of a bad thing. I'm going to say that. I don't think the activity of keeping track of what your client is creating and your client's breakthroughs, I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
I think being in a coaching, and I say bad, not in that like you're a bad person or this is entirely black and white and you should be shunned if you do this. I say bad in that like I try to avoid it.
Yeah.
But like I don't think it's a good approach to coaching. I don't think it's going to lead to as effective coaching. I don't feel like I would be in integrity as a coach if I were approaching coaching conversations with my own agenda to get the person to renew. That just feels like so gross to me. This person is paying for like my time, my viewpoint, my philosophy, my energy. They're paying for their own transformation. I don't like the idea of coming into that being like, I'm going to get them to pay for more. Like, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
That just feels like it muddies my role as a coach in a way that I really don't like.
I agree. And, I understand why sales trainings will teach that, because if you've never been an entrepreneur, you might feel really awkward about selling. And then some people err on the side of like not letting their client know that their last couple sessions are coming up, and, would it be helpful to continue working together? Or can I design something that would be perfect for the next year of your life? Like that's, I get it from that perspective, but I also think that maybe it's a little bit lazy to try to be using a sales technique instead of just doing your job.
Yeah. Because your job does involve making sure, creating a space where a client is acknowledging the amazing breakthroughs they're having. So like, I think that's maybe the nuance to the conversation. It's not that the activity of being like, you did this, this, and this is inherently bad or wrong. It's that there's a much better way to approach that. Like, is your client dismissing all of the stuff they're creating? Are they overlooking their transformation? Are they still beating themselves up even though they've like created amazing breakthroughs in their lives? Let's approach that from a coaching perspective and get curious about why, and maybe challenge them around it using our own experience of what they've created.
Yeah.
That's going to be so much more transformative for the client than like, here's what you did. Would you like to continue with me?
Yeah. And behind door number 3, just imagine what we'll do next.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, I love this exploration because I think it's something that I guess if it's working for people and you really feel like you're delivering and it's not an issue at all, like maybe it's perfect and we're just You and I have a different opinion. But I think that
Absolutely.
the way to test this for yourself, if you're a coach or a consultant, or you're just doing anything where your energy and attention create some like, I know intimacy is kind of a weird word to use, but it is like a level of
Yeah.
relationship that's really deep and for
Hmm.
people. Um, I think just checking if it feels disconnected to have some kind of scripted or rote protocol that you're like socking away till the last couple sessions.
Yes,
You and I both talked about
absolutely.
this like way back when too, but like neither one of us do sales conversations during paid client sessions.
Nope.
I just think that's incorrect.
Yeah.
It's incorrect to do.
Yes. Hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that that's off limits for you as well. Um,
The
because
only circumstances under which I would do that is if the client asks for it.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't come at it from the perspective of like trying to sell to them. I would come at it from the perspective of like helping them connect with what they want, helping them evaluate their priorities and like the resources they have available to them.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, I sometimes won't do it at all, but I've had moments where it's come up with somebody on a call and I'm like, well, if you have a few minutes at the end of our session today, I do, and we can talk about it. But
Hmm.
let's keep with the theme and I'll put that, to the future and we can I kind of explicitly say I don't want to do anything that feels like a sales conversation while you're in an emotional place.
Yes.
Yeah, it just feels icky, feels
Yeah,
not nice.
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I also think
Um,
the relationship based, like I like relationship based sales. That's how I've always preferred to be sold to, and it's how I now work. But I think about the best salespeople that I know, they just like they're not the people who like go stand up at a conference and subtly drop hints that they're this and that and whatever like nonsense people do. They're the people that get up and they offer something really brilliant. And you can tell that they really care and they share something that's genuinely valuable to the audience. And then they just stand up and wait for people to come to them. Like it is a brilliant sales technique
yeah.
where you just get to be yourself and then the people who resonate the most hire you.
Which I think comes back to your brilliant, pithy way of saying this, that like the most effective sales is like just doing your job.
Just do your job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That
Help the
easy,
person.
folks.
Just do your job. But I think that is so true. I want to answer this question because I
Yeah.
realized like I didn't. I actually do have some experience with signs that I think a client might be becoming dependent or like it's weird to talk about this because it is a spectrum like of like what is dependency, when is it like problematic or something that I would want to address. But for me, I think if a client is consistently outsourcing credit for like their breakthroughs, if they're like these are some things I might, they're not 100% like yes this is dependency, but I might like perk up my ears a little bit and dig in a little more.
Yeah.
So like if a client has been putting off a habit and then we coach and they leave the session feeling amazing and then they do the habit and the next week they're like, I did that thing, you worked your magic. I might be like, oh, like you did it.
Mhm.
Let's talk about that. That if they're doing that continuously, I might just note it and maybe it's something just like kind of nice that they wanted to say and it's
Mhm.
absolutely nothing, or maybe it's like they're not acknowledging their own contribution. um, if a client is consistently asking me like what I think or like what they should do, I depending on the client, but like most of the time I will revert back to like, what do
Mhm.
you think? Where are you at? Why are you not trusting yourself on this?
Mhm.
I do think it can be kind of annoying if a coach does that, if there is a very straightforward answer and
Sure.
like I actually do have the expertise to share that
Yes.
answer.
Yes.
I don't want to be like withholding information from them. And also, I do relate to the client as an expert, and I
Mhm.
want them always to be claiming their authority in the
Mhm.
coaching experience. So I would try to like navigate ways to invite that.
Oh, I love it. It's funny with that one. Sometimes I'll say, well, I'll offer you a couple thoughts on it. I don't know what you should do, but let me offer you some things that I've seen other clients do, some things I have tried, and then maybe we can just kind of see if there's some options that spark something for you. So
Hmm.
I will, if I can answer a question, I will answer a question without saying, here's exactly what you should do.
Right.
And then, I get the credit for it because yay. And then you can renew
Yeah.
like none of
Yeah.
that
Right.
stuff. I'm like, let me just bounce some ideas off of you and you can see if there's anything that like sparks a direction.
Hmm.
And then interestingly, with the first thing you said, I do something a little different. So
Ooh.
people will say like, oh yes, you worked your magic or whatever it is. This used to come up a lot in yoga. Like my perspective was like, it's very hard to screw up a yoga class. People will go, they will breathe, they will move, they will feel better. And then they're like, all the credit goes to the yoga teacher. So people would come up to me after a class and be like, that was the most amazing yoga class of all time in the history of the universe. And I'm like, well, you did the work. Like,
Yeah.
it's because you were breathing. It was the yoga, it was not me.
Hmm.
And I have a friend who is a international spiritual teacher, and he was in town teaching a workshop one weekend. And he saw this exchange happen at the end of a class. And he afterwards pulled me aside and he was like, I want to just tell you something. And you don't have to take this, but he said, when people are having their experience of you, and then your response is to kind of give it back to them. Like, I
Hmm.
understand you're trying to like help them own that they did the work. You didn't do their yoga poses for them. You didn't like shape their bodies or make them breathe. He was like, it is a false humility. And it's actually, you're not receiving their gift. You're kind of giving them your gift back. So I try to just say thank you now. I try
Wow.
to just say, you did the work. Thank you. I'm so glad you feel that way. I actually like, I'll try to kind of mirror what someone
Hmm.
says, but rather than say, oh, no, 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 I did nothing. You are the one who made this happen. I have a client who's done some really incredible things, and she's very kind and she says really nice things. And I'm like, if you say those things on the internet, I am using them as testimonials. So thank you very much for generously doing that. But I just say, you are the one who was ready to receive it. You are the one who was willing to do the work that it took. A lot of people can
Hmm.
take it, and I will say that to her. I'll say, a lot of people can have this transformation and then just feel better and do nothing with it. But you're the
Hmm.
person that took it seriously and went out and created your business.
Hmm.
So it's a way of not me taking responsibility for it or ownership of their achievement, but it's a way of like accepting their kind words, even though I don't believe it's true, and empowering them to. I think this is like how to not, maybe because the yoga thing, I was really worried about people being dependent on yoga.
Right.
But my friend Jeff's like experience of that, he was like, yeah, you're just like putting up a wall and not letting people give you their appreciation and gratitude because you didn't like
Mm-hmm.
how they framed it. And you
Hmm.
want them to know that they did the work, but they know they're grown-ups. They know they did the work. He was like, just receive it. And it actually took me 3 years of practicing just saying, I'm so glad you had a great experience. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving yourself the gift, like not deflecting it. Very uncomfortable. But I try to like take some essence of that into the coaching because I also know like if I said to you, Elena, you're just like the most loving, curious, interested, thoughtful person. And you were like, no, no, you are. I would be like, oh, my like genuine
Aw.
appreciation of you just got like tossed over there.
Yeah.